Hi, my name's Alan McDowell, Memory Programs LLC, and today I'm going to talk about how businesses, some businesses, families, and industries use the medical system for deliberate, malicious malpractice and pretty much drugging up your competition. Um, Like everyone should know, I regularly talk about the conflicts of interest I've had with the mental health field over the years and the malpractice that has gone on. Today I'm going to talk about around 2012, uh, August of 2012, some medical files. Now, um, I guess sometimes, I've never even heard of this, but sometimes files get mixed up and other people's files end up in your files, and which can contribute to a false uh, malpractice diagnosis. I'd never really heard about this before until it actually happened to me. Um, I feel that it's really suspicious whether these files were put in my medical files at Deaconess Hospital, which is CHS Corporation, or not. But they're definitely contributing to a false diagnosis, and there's a lot of mental health issues at play with this paperwork. First, I'm going to read the false documentation I had talked about probably 4 or 5 months ago at City Council or somewhere. It was one of the first City Councils I talked. Probably the first time I ever talked at City Council. I stated that something about a Foley catheter on my file and an assault, which never took place. One, I've never had a Foley catheter in my life, and two, I've never committed assault. So on this file um, is the sitter observation flow sheet. It's kind of hard to read, so bear with me. I might be a little slow. The handwriting is kind of iffy. But what the sitter stated about the roommate that I had was in this file, was put on this flow sheet and then dumped in my medical file. Um, it says at 1500, and this is a sitter stated, I tried to help patient. He said he felt like he needed to get up and go to the bathroom to urinate. Explained he had a Foley in, which is a Foley catheter, in, but then felt the brief was where he was wearing was wet. I asked him if I could change it uh, and clean him up. There's a word I'm missing there. He refuses many times and tried to get up. I went over to help him and he kicked me. I got nurse's attention to help. He was very confused and said he was home, wanted more TV, etc. Very confused. We had to retie arm restraints. Okay, so none of this ever happened. It was put in my file, and it's very suspicious because a lot of the statements I made in there were never put on file. It was obvious that I had a conflict of interest with the mental health medical industry at the time, and that I was complaining about my business being shut down on false information written in the police reports and false information on the medical files written by Providence, and never any quotes about the actual company I owned, and having a conflict of interest with the medical director at Frontier Behavioral Health. Uh, so it's very suspicious. At Deaconess on August 2012, uh, the reports never put any quotes in, like always, because it's a legal liability to insurance companies to ever put in proper information that could be rebutted. So it's always a broad brush over your behavior as is being delusional, writing delusional, instead of writing the actual quotes down. Whether it's AMR, whether it's the police department, and whether it's the medical field, very, very rarely will anybody ever get a quote on file, and the medical field will always use subversive techniques to keep you away from your files, to not allow you to counterfile, or many times strips a lot of the paperwork that you write to put in your file from ever getting into the actual medical file. Because of one, malpractice, and insurance companies wouldn't insure it. They would start going after the medical field for malpractice. Now, I'd like to note that psychiatry is the highest area of medicine, the highest numbers of malpractice in the medical industry come from psychiatry. This is very suspicious. I've never heard of it before, putting someone else's paperwork in my file. I remember the man. He was from the East Coast. We had good conversations, and I think it's very disturbing that the medical field would do such a thing. But again, it could be accident, and always in court, if this ever went to court, it would always be written up. The defense would always say, "Oh no, it was an accident and it was put in there." Now, I personally feel that it could be used deliberately to in order, if a case ever went to trial, and in a case like mine, and I ever made it back from chemical withdrawal, and I retained my memory from the antipsychotics that cause severe brain damage. If I ever made it back and looked through the paperwork and tried to file a malpractice lawsuit, that they knew that, and they could deliberately put this in and possibly say that there was it was just an accident, and that contributed to a majority of the reporting. So it's a save your ass kind of deal. Now, I have a few more sheets. These are timesheets written by sitters, and they're definitely the guy from the East Coast that was in my room. They're not my files. They were stamped as his files and and coded. A lot of this is trying to get out, having confrontations with the staff to get out of the room. When I was in the room, I asked to leave, yes, but I didn't continually over and over ask to leave. I thought I was pretty nice. I had good conversations with the sitters and the security guards, or whomever was in the hospital that I was talking to. But over here, it's just confusion, trying to get out, pretty much all through this file. And I'll show it to you. Trying to get out. So, this one states restless, and then it has a violent. It says violent and wants to leave. And so that's definitely shouldn't be in my file. I was never violent with any medical staff, even though I had been strapped down. I had been my blood pressure, my blood circulation had been cut off, and such. So I was never violent. And this one is a lot of agitation, restless, and awake through this file. All put on my paperwork, but definitely someone else's paperwork, and I think it's just ridiculous that this paperwork is in my file, and I will turn that in to the ombudsman, and along with a lot of other paperwork, trying to go through this 1,000 pages. I'm told that no one in the history of Spokane County has ever gone through their they're gone back to the courthouse, the clerk, and actually asked for their information, their actual court trial back. Anita told me that, one of the clerks that oversees mental health evaluations. And so, a lot of the time, antipsychotics cause severe memory loss and brain damage, whereas a person doesn't have the cognitive ability to go back and through and re-step all those steps in order to see what exactly took place. And I feel police departments, the medical field, hospitals, and emergency responders abuse the effects of the drugs by writing in continual false reports, which are for profit and can't be disputed because the individual has had severe memory loss and even trying to get off the antipsychotics, you have chemical withdrawal, and which shows the effects of a mental illness and disorder, causing another hospitalization a lot of the time, and it usually takes about a year to 6 months to a year to get through chemical withdrawal, where an individual can settle down, have the right amount of memory in order to go back and counter all false documentation. So, well, that's that file. It covers pretty much putting someone else's files into another client's files in order to diagnose. Again, my name is Alan McDowell. My company in the conflict of interest was Memory Programs. I also had family conflicts of interest and business, family, and political conflicts of interest at play. And I'll go through each file separately and try to do something with this. I don't know, but thank you for your time, and I'll see you again.